Welcome back, fellow mental plateauers, and today we have two special guests with us. First is Mr. Walsh, our principal of Hinsdale Central, as well as my good friend and classmate, Rian Shah. So basically, in this episode, we're going to be talking about the impact that specific people in our high school, such as our principal, Mr. Walsh, has on students all around us. So, Rian, would you like to start with some questions?
Yes, I would. Thank you, Shreyas. Principal Walsh, to start with some background, the students of Hinsdale Central want to know more about the man behind the tie. Let's start by talking about your experiences in high school. So, First question is, did you play any sports in high school?
Yeah, I graduated Notre Dame High School on the north side of Chicago back in 1988. It was an all-boys Catholic school, or still is an all-boys Catholic school. I grew up in the city of Chicago, and it says CTA or RTA out to school, like your parents and grandparents say. Then I had to walk a mile through 4 feet of snow down Dempster Avenue every day to get to class or get to school. In high school, again, it was a smaller school. I think my graduating class was about 120. The whole school maybe had 440, 450 kids by the time I graduated in 88. So we didn't have 100 clubs. We didn't have 33 varsity sports. But I was a 4-year baseball player, and I wrestled for 2 years. And then I've been working since the age of 11. So for most of my life, I've been working. But high school was fun. I don't know if I ever thought I was never going to be a teacher. So we can get to that point later. It was not my thing.
Did you ever think that, how do you feel like sports had a role on you?
Yeah. I think sports and I still say this today as a principal, and I'd love to hear what you guys are engaged in as well. I think it helps define your character. I think it helps identify some skills. So we talk about social emotional learning competencies, self-awareness, responsibility, decision-making, all those different things. I think athletics and clubs do that. For baseball, I think it did that. I didn't get cut from the team, but, I got cut from every basketball team I ever tried. Do you guys play basketball?
I played basketball my freshman year, but since then I've decided to focus more on tennis.
I relate with that scenario as well, because with the tennis team and all, it's really competitive, and once you get on that team, it's just really a experience that you can't forget, because competing as a team, those practices, it really just builds character, and that's something I enjoy.
And you have all these, you call them teammates or friends, this camaraderie that you build with it. So I would agree.
Yeah, I agree. You build skills of leadership, teamwork, team building, all that stuff is very important.
And the same is to say about stuff like clubs, Model UN and whatnot.
Is that what you're in here, Model UN?
Yeah, I'm in a few, Model UN, as well as some mental health clubs, such as Operation Snowball.
They always ask me every year to go on that Operation Snowball trip. I've never gone. Mr. Martzoff, my colleague over at Hinsdale South, the assistant principal, he goes on it every year.
It's a really engaging experience, because along with just team building and just getting to know your peers, you also have special experiences. One of them is cross the line, and basically it's a modified version of put a finger down, but in that game you basically just understand the harsh scenarios that everyone experiences at their own home, and while those issues might not be visible just from seeing them, by doing this experience, you're able to see the true issues they face within their own character, within their own families, within their own homes.
You get a better perspective. It's that the world is not about you. That there's that everybody has some issues going on in their life, and that whether it's my own mental health, other people are experiencing maybe not the exact same thing, but something in their lives. Nobody's life is perfect. And anybody that portrays it is probably hiding behind something.
Okay, so during COVID, as you know, all of us, students, teachers, everyone, staff, we spent a lot of time at home, and it's basically learning at our own mini island. So how do you feel that you're able to reflect on some of those learnings during that quarantine time period or whatever? And how do you feel it has an impact on stuff like mental health, learning, or just overall growth?
I find it funny you use the word island. Even your kitchen island you were learning from, right? Not only the concept of an island, you're by yourself and isolated, but also that kitchen island you were from. COVID, that March 2020, I think back, and there was probably some general excitement to kids And I'll bet you there was probably some amongst teachers too. Now, hey, this is going to be great, but nobody expected it to be then the whole next school year, and then even into the first semester. Well, really the whole next school year too, but primarily that first semester. It was probably this is what, my 29th year of teaching, and those by far were the hardest 2.5, if not 3 years in education possible. It was horrible from a variety of standpoints. Not only being isolated, but also you didn't have students roaming the halls. And I came in the building every day during all those years, and just. It was hard to imagine there's school going on, yet I see no bodies walking in the hallways, no slamming of lockers, no picking up of sticks or basketballs or running the fields or whatever it may be, or clamoring and buttons in Science Olympiad, so to say. But I think it definitely impacted. No, I'm going to take that back. I think COVID drew to the forefront what was already there. In terms of mental health. I don't think mental health issues among students, I don't think mental health issues among teaching staff or adults is new. What I think that pandemic did was drew attention to how important it is that we are aware of it, acknowledge it, give people resources for it, but I think it goes to my conversation earlier, recognize that no one is alone in how they're feeling or experiencing. That you have your own, Brianne, have your own issues, and you have your own, and I have my own. But how do we navigate through it? This is a long, elaborate answer. I think the biggest issue that we lost was a lot of times solving some of our issues. Let's call them surface level issues. Can be done by being friends and colleagues and interacting, human to human. We lost that, and some people lost it for a long time if they stayed home for even longer. I don't remember what you guys did or didn't do, but I think that had a bigger impact on it as well.
I completely. Go ahead.
Sorry, to your point of some people staying at home longer than others. I was fortunate enough because middle school I went to, my grade was only 70 kids, so we were actually. I had 8th grade year in person.
Is that right?
So I was lucky enough to have the access to I was able to build those more skills of interaction with face to face of humans, but
with a mask on.
With a mask on, that's true. But it was still weird to feel that experience of sitting in a classroom and seeing your classmates on the TV from Zoom who were staying at home.
Well, you probably didn't see them because they probably had the
camera off.
Camera off, right?
Just for attendance, you turn it on and then turn it off.
Yeah.
And that was somewhat similar. I went to HMS, which was definitely a bigger school of sorts. There was around probably 200 students per grade.
Right.
So for me, I had a different type of experience. It was all remote for me until around 8th grade, second semester.
Okay.
So they did try to incorporate us into their curriculum by putting a TV in the back and saying, oh, you're present physically, but not really.
Right.
I mean, just being at home, I just felt that cycle of waking up, going to my computer, just doing homework and eating. I mean, I did try to manipulate it in a way by just playing tennis with some of my friends at the local courts, or just getting in a voice call with my friends. So that's definitely one way I just manipulated it.
And I think we were lucky. Lucky is a bad word too. My oldest is 21, so he's a junior in college. My middle child is a freshman in college, and my youngest is a junior in high school. So 2020, my oldest was going to graduate high school, but I still had a sophomore and then a eighth grader at the time, 8th grade student. I think, and I don't know, do you guys do PlayStation or Nintendo?
Yeah. 100%.
So I think now with with one, social media, and then two, I should say Snapchat or whatever your PlayStation, Nintendo, or Xbox.
Yeah.
There was a lot more interaction that was taking place that way.
Yeah.
It wasn't face to face. Yeah, the online. I still see my 17-year-old, 18-year-old son who plays the video games, and they're playing whatever game it is, but they're still having a dialogue, right?
Yeah.
It's not face to face, but at least there was some interaction going on. But think about, I don't know if you have younger brothers or sisters, really little ones. There was, my wife is a school psych in an elementary school, fourth grade school. And I don't know if you've ever studied the development of a child. A lot of it is what we call parallel play. Think about it. When you were a kid, your mom took you on play dates, right? You didn't necessarily play with each other. You played alongside each other. One of you is building blocks, the other's building blocks. You're not building blocks together. Eventually, you learn that. But I think those younger students, kindergarten, first grade students, they never learned even parallel play because they were by themselves. So I think every generation, every grade level missed something.
Yeah.
And what they missed in their development might be different, but they still missed some component in their own development that it's going to take us some time to rebuild those things. So I don't know.
I think it's a great point you made about especially the very little kids who like it's easier, like still not perfect, but it's easier for us older kids to interact online, but like you said, for the younger kids, they can't just like go from like the play dates in person, like you said, to just like talking online to their friend.
Right.
Like
they haven't developed those relationships in any way, or how to engage in somebody.
Exactly.
With parallel play, eventually it becomes interchange, and you learn how to have conversations.
Yeah.
You learn how to resolve conflict, right?
Yeah.
And even if you're just talking on your headset over PlayStation, if you have conflict, sometimes maybe you'll just mute yourself, not engage, or you'll engage in banter that isn't healthy.
Yeah.
And then, so at some point we have to learn how to resolve conflict in life too, and that's important. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean that transition between just like being there electronically to physically, that was also something that I did during like with my friends. So we just gamed or like went on our computers, voice called or whatever. But,
what was your game of choice?
I don't know, just Minecraft. Or something
Minecraft.
Like
What was the other one my boys played? The where they're shooting the guns.
I feel like there's a lot
Where
of
you
those.
run, it had the circle that always shrunk down. I can't remember.
Fortnite.
Fortnite.
Yeah.
Thank you. I can't believe I was forgetting that. Yeah, Fortnite. That was the
Yeah.
other big one during that time.
And then we slowly transitioned, my friend group. We slowly transitioned to like playing in person with each other, like basketball or just like equipment tag or whatever.
Yeah.
But there were like, as you said, obvious obstacles that many of us faced, whether it be like strict parents or whatever, or just like having that own just self like mental wall.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But I think that's the whole point is, I think those were always there. What ended up happening is, I think post-COVID, during COVID or post-COVID, it just became more aware of how students were trying to navigate their own mental struggles that they were having. So I think now schools are looking at it, and parents are looking at, oh my God, my child has anxiety. No, your child has probably always had anxiety. You maybe just didn't notice it before.
Yeah.
Or my child is whatever. And now it's at the forefront of the conversations of how can a school help support those things within a child's educational development.
Yeah.
Yeah, many of those kids were facing a mental plateau. So
No, right, yeah.
Yeah. So as we're like coming back to normal, or as we already have as a school environment, you obviously played a very important role and in like restoring the environment, the teaching experience for the student in schools. So can you share some of the challenges and actions and how you went about it?
Yeah, I'm not sure. What I think during COVID, I don't think I really had any voice in restoring it. I would actually back up and say my only goal was trying to figure out what is the best way to meet your needs as a student. What is the best way we can put a teacher in a place to meet your needs?
Yeah.
Because the government, both the federal, the local, as well as the very local and the school board, they were the ones making those decisions of whether we're going to be in person or not. They were the ones making decisions whether we're going to wear a mask or not. They were the ones deciding whether we could be within 6 feet or not, right? They were making all those calls. Whether you could play basketball with a mask on or whether you could play tennis without a mask on because it was outside, right?
Yeah.
My only charge was to how to create a learning environment that you could learn in, whether it was Canvas, whether it was GoGuardian, whether it was Pear Deck things. What tools could we give teachers that would enable you to be to achieve whatever it is they were looking for you?
Yeah.
And it wasn't easy because it wasn't easy, but it wasn't. I don't know what the right word to think is. You guys had computers as students already, at least 2 years, I think. We had already had computers, and teachers had computers since 2003. So the transition to remote learning wasn't a first step. We were already a little bit there. We were on the way. So it just required jumping over a few more hurdles to do it. Now, those hurdles were huge.
Yeah.
Zoom, cameras on, cameras off, attendance, yada, 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 yada. But I think, if you look at some schools like Chicago Public Schools or some rural schools, they didn't have any equipment.
Yeah.
They'd never even talked about online learning. They never talked about computers in a classroom. So I think we were in a little bit better state than some of those other schools. And I think it helped a little bit for us to achieve some of those. I think our students we're still not back to where we want to be in terms of our scores, SAT scores, AT scores, AP scores, classroom behaviors, things like that. I think we're in a better place than other schools are.
Yeah.
And that's because right when the pandemic hit, we already had those few stepping stones to help us be successful.
Yeah, and I think we'd even done a couple e-learning days in advance of those days because for whether it was snow, ice days, we'd already done a couple of those. So it wasn't brand stinking new as to what was going on. It was just day in and day out a repetitive behavior of every lesson's now online, or every lesson is online while in person.
Yeah.
It was really hard, and I felt bad, enormously bad for our teachers. I mean, I'd been in the classroom for 13 years, and I'd been out of the classroom for 13 years at that point, so it was equal. I could not imagine being back in the classroom during that time.
Yeah, they had to adapt so much to
they did, amazingly, and I think they're still seeing some of the struggles that you talked about. I think we're still seeing some behavioral issues in class. I think we're still seeing some lack of accountability going on in class, which is why I think some of the grading practices they were started before then, but then they continued because of that. But as a principal, it was really difficult because no matter what decision was being made, at least 50% of people were pissed, and at least 50% of the people were happy or satisfied or content. It was impossible. I felt like a referee. I loved umpiring. I was a baseball umpire for years. Every strike call, every out call, 50% of the people are happy. The other 50% are not with it.
Yeah.
And that's what every decision felt like during COVID.
Yeah.
And people were not shy about sharing their opinions, let's put it that way. You maybe seen some social media posts.
Out of like those many decisions that you make, obviously they're all hard decisions. It's impossible to please everyone, right? Were there any decisions or things you think you could have maybe changed or that you would have done differently?
I don't know if I could have or would have. I wish cameras had to be on.
Okay. Yeah.
But I know why they were off. If we really want to be honest about it, why they were off. I think they were off for two reasons. Some people's home environments are not like other people's home environments. So people don't want, and then maybe they had 4 or 5 people, siblings, all doing it. So you didn't want cameras on showing everybody else in there. Two, I think students made bad choices. I know there was some bullying stuff. So all of a sudden your camera's on. There were other people that are taking pictures of people while they were online and then posting those and became, you do one different thing with your hand and somebody gets a picture of it and then they manipulate that into, mocking people. So I wish cameras could have been on. I think it might have changed some things, but I also know it would have created other problems. I don't know. The mask thing, I don't know. That I don't even like thinking about that. But I don't know if there was a way around that. I used to live in Seoul, South Korea, way back when, way before you guys were born, and masks were a common thing there because of the environment, the smog, and whatever else. So I don't think masks are. I get it. I understand it. People wear them for a variety of reasons. But I mean, I don't know. It's difficult.
And then with all the challenges that you said, obviously there's a lot of issues that you have to face every single day. And there's a lot of interference between your work life and your student life and just having interactions with your family as a whole. So with all those tasks, how did you find time for yourself? How did you find time to balance your lifestyle?
I don't think it matters whether I'm principal, whether I was assistant principal, whether I was dean of students, whether I was a classroom teacher, which are all the roles I've done, or whether I was a major league umpire. I still blame my wife for me not being a major league umpire, by the way. But anyway, I think you have to have balance in your life. You have to find a moment or two within your day where you can separate the two, right? For me, it happens to be 5:30 in the morning when I do my workouts. But even at the end of the day, I like to check out. I try not to bring my work life home in the sense of I go home, I have 3 boys and a lovely wife and pardon my language, a damn dog in my house, and I want to spend time with them, right? Whether I used to be their baseball coaches and their golf coaches. I don't do that anymore. But you want to find that with. So I don't care whatever it is you do as a student. Is one check out, meaning take close the laptop, close the textbook, I'd flip over your phone, shut off the phone, and find a moment for yourself.
Yeah.
You can call it mindfulness, you can call it meditation, you can call it relaxation. I don't care what you call it. Take a moment to decompress for yourself and find that mental plateau where you can take a moment. I didn't always have glasses. I used to have perfect vision, and then I turned 50. Before I had turned 50, I don't have one here. I used to keep a pencil behind my ear. Teachers always used to, Walsh, where's your pencil? Where's your pencil? I went to glasses, and you can't really wear a pencil with glasses. It just falls out. Long story short, I'd walk around school with a pencil.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, the pencil comes off, and it was a checkout. School's over. Go work on the next thing at home. I've sort of lost that since I've started wearing glasses. I've never figured out what that check off should be. But you got to find, you as a student and my colleagues have to find a moment to check out every day.
I mean, obviously that, like, those small physical interactions, they just like contribute towards that mental stimulus that obviously just allows you to relax yourself.
Right.
And considering the like increase in academic competitivity, it's really becoming harder and harder for students to somewhat relax themselves and calm down and find time for themselves at home. So just like as myself, I go home, I love to compete in sports. I always try to find time to hang out with my friends. And oftentimes I find myself like struggling over studying for so many tests. But I always try to make sure that I don't procrastinate. And I think with planning and with just like making sure that you're being sensitive with the way that you use your time, one is able to somewhat juggle all those tasks and still be able to enjoy their life as childhood or enjoy childhood.
Do you set up your schedule? Do you like you maybe you don't have a calendar, but you have like in your mind, I get home at 3:30 and I'm going to go hang out with friends or do something, and then I'm going to start my homework at a certain time, or you do homework and then you're going to find time?
For me, it's usually that like the earlier you get it done, the earlier you can just like let loose. So
Same with you?
Yeah, I mean, with certain people like my sister, she's a senior, so she's a little bit like let loose, you know? But she was able to keep on top of all of it. But as myself, obviously, I'd like to keep myself organized and just like use my time wisely. And then that free time, I have a dog myself as well.
Do you like your dog?
Yeah, I like my dog.
I'm not a dog fan. Yeah. But that's a whole other conversation.
What about you, Ryan?
For me, when I like get home from school, there's a lot of times where I do procrastinate and I hate myself for doing it, but when I do set a plan for myself and I just try and knock everything out, it comes so easy, like finishing everything, and then I feel so good after, and I have still so much time to just, like you said, take a break.
But why do you call it procrastination? Because I think if you call it procrastination, Ron, the problem is there's a connotation in your mind that it's bad. And if you call it, I'm taking a mental break, I'm going to give myself a reward, then I'm going to do what I need to do. So, for example, do you have a job? Do you guys have a job?
Not yet.
Okay. All right. I force all my kids to get jobs. So if you get a paycheck, what are you going to do with that paycheck? Let's say the paycheck's $100. My conversation to my boys is, you have to take a portion of that paycheck and put it away. If you take the whole paycheck and spend it on a new pair of I don't know, Nike gym shoes, Nike or whatever classic gym shoes, instead of putting away, you're never going to have time for later. So even in your own mental time, you got to find time to save or bank it. And so giving yourself 10 minutes, 15 minutes, I don't care how long the time is, you decide whatever that is. It's not procrastination. It's banking your own mental capacity so that you can achieve whatever it is you're going to do later. That's it. So don't call it procrastination. I think it would be better for all of us to get away from that term and saying, it's not I'm procrastinating, Mom. I'm trying to give myself the time so that I can do focus time later.
And be more efficient later.
But at times, I mean, a lot of students, like, we do have an issue with self-discipline sometimes.
Yes, great. But then you're also 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 years old, and you're learning that, right? And isn't that what high school is about? You can fail. Not that you're going to fail, but you can struggle with stuff at this age and still get where you want to go because there's some learned behaviors in there, right? So you're going to learn, I need to be better about this. I need to be more focused about this, and then I can get where I'm at to be. There's nothing wrong with struggling in any point in life, as long as there's some reflective portion.
Yeah,
of it.
I mean, this is taught in like several things. Like at our school, RDR, SEL, we always like hear strategies on what to do and how to like use your time wisely.
Right.
But there are still students out there, and you did recommend a few strategies, but there's still students out there who are like sometimes overstressed, and at points they don't like engage in a balanced lifestyle. How do you recommend that in those specific cases they should act to it?
Yeah, I think this is a way extreme. You know, we call it tier 3 at schools, but sometimes people need counseling. You know, my wife and I attend marriage counseling because there's nothing wrong with it. It's about building communication skills. It's not that saying what you were doing is right or wrong. It's helping you be self-aware of what behaviors are you engaging in that is causing stress or anxiety, whether it's in our marriage or whether it's in my schoolwork or whether it's in my own personal life. So I think that's one thing is there are resources available to all, and counseling, social work, whatever you want to call it, sometimes are good things, right? Or just talking to your friends, recognizing that you are not alone with some of the things. Holy cow, I'm stressed about this Calc BC test. I'm stressed about this AP Euro test. I'm stressed about my English 2 class. Whatever it may be, I'll bet you your friend is too. I'll bet you your sister is too. Your brother is too. Your dog is damn not, is all they do is lie around all day. But I think it's that, is connecting with people, whether, again, it's a counselor, a friend, a mom, a dad, whomever it may be, a teacher in some cases too, because that's what they're here for, your counselor, is finding some ways to talk through whatever it is and recognize you're not alone. Other people are experiencing the same. Sometimes you can experience it together and move through that issue.
I completely agree with that idea of like collaboration and how it helps your like mental side of things. And in some of my classes, like AP Seminar, the curriculum's based more around collaboration, just team group projects and whatnot. And I find that class really fun because not only do you like research your own project, but you also learn from your peers a lot more. But in some classes, that is something that's lacked. So do you feel that like the idea of collaboration should be implied more in classes at times?
Yeah, I'm not, the word group work, I don't use. Like when I go do an observation, I don't think I've ever been in every one of your classes for an observation. But when we do observations of staff, we call it cooperative learning groups. It's not group work. Group work implies that all of you, that there's one assignment that the group is going to do. If it's cooperative learning, you have an assignment, you have an assignment, I have an assignment. When it comes together, it's a project. And that we each have a responsibility to do something. Group work, you can probably think of some examples in your own mind where one person did all the work, right? Or one person did none of the work but got the same credit. If it's cooperative learning, there's this concept of accountability, responsibility, decision making, and input, right? That we each have a responsibility to the collective whole that we're trying to achieve. And I think that's, you're right. I think we'll use the word collaborative or cooperative in this sense.
100%.
Yeah, and that forces like each member of the group to be responsible for their own part and trust their other group members to get the job done. So that way.
And get feedback from each other, right?
Exactly,
Positive, constructive feedback about, hey, I think we can do this with yours, and you might have feedback on mine, or maybe not, whatever. But that's the concept, is we can work together to get to that end goal, whatever it may be.
And like you see this stuff in like even classes like gym, just like
PE. Gym is a place. PE is a course.
Gym. But like I'm in the class fits too, and basically like these activities like just basketball, I find it really fun myself because like regardless of how good you are, it doesn't matter. It's just like how well can you guys work together to like accomplish that goal, and that's something that really sticks out, and that's like the highlight of my day for myself. What about you, Rian?
I agree with that too, and like the competitiveness of the class also like it forces like other like your peers to push your like yourself like more, so that way you like win, right? Like
plus you're getting your heart rate up, which activates your brain cells, with activation. The question is, what's your class after PE?
Oh, that's 10th period for me.
Both of you have PE 10th period? Ideally, the research says that PE should precede your most difficult class. For most students, it's math, but it doesn't have to be math. If you can put PE before your most difficult class, you will. The studies say, and I don't have them in front of me to cite, but Miss Marconi would have them, that you will increase your capacity in those classes, because elevating your heart rate, engaging your body, and activating those blood cells will trigger your mind to be better in some of those other classes.
And Rihanna and I were both in like the same AP Physics class, and like we see in like those scenarios, like with difficulty, how it teaches us to like work together in cases, because like after each test, it's like an experience. The class is an experience. The same thing is to say about classes like AP Euro, because that like stress overall is something that like it's a unique bond that students share amongst each other, and that not only helps with like being a better student and a better friend, but just like having a better understanding of everything.
And you have a common interest, a common commonality between you, whether it's AP Physics, AP Euro, whatever it may be.
Yeah. And then, so there are certain clubs at our school, like Operation Snowball, Student Voice Committee, SMBC, and there's
SMBC.
Strong Minds Brain Cringe.
Okay,
But there are like also courses, or not courses, but like in class things that we do, like SEL and RDR.
Yeah.
So how do you feel like these clubs promote the cause of mental health to like the next level?
I don't think it's probably any different than activity or athletics. It's a shift. It engages your mind, engages your body in a different thing. So whether you're in tennis, whether you're in soccer, whether you're in football, whether you're in baseball, whatever it may be, I think it causes the mind to get off that straight line that you're on and think about something different. But I think there are certain clubs that do talk about mental health and things of that nature. I think they're just the idea to expose students that there is other options. I don't know. There's just a lot of them out there. There's a lot of service clubs that we have, as well as a lot of competitive clubs.
Yeah, and then there's also like clubs like debate or mock trial and like Azrions and
Competitive
BPA.
clubs,
Yeah.
What are you in?
BPA, Business Professionals.
I know. You don't tell me. I was a sponsor for 13 years.
Yeah.
Or actually, I even sponsored it while I was. No, I did mock trial while I was a dean.
Oh, okay.
So my 13 years as a classroom teacher, I was BPA sponsor.
Yeah. So that's like teaching students to like incorporate their interest into their school career.
Right.
And as someone who's in Model UN, obviously like, and FHP, like those are clubs I learned from, and that's something that I
Future health professionals?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's something that I use to like manipulate my learning and just like try to just understand what my future career could be and where there's
is there interest in it?
Yeah, and like not only like it does have a great impact on like school learning and all that stuff, but like many of the skills that you get, like some of the like competitions I'm doing for BPA, for example, they're all stuff that I'll probably use in my future.
What are you doing this year? Because state's coming up.
Nationals.
Nationals, because state was a couple weeks ago. That's right.
So
Nationals is in it's in Anaheim,
Anaheim,
right? And you're in it?
Yeah, so I made it for one of my events.
Which one?
Word processing.
Nice.
So that's just like formatting and like editing.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah, you know.
Are you guys using Word or Google for
Word?
that?
Yeah.
You're still using Word.
So I usually use Google Docs for like schoolwork and stuff. So Word's a little bit different.
It
but,
is.
But it's a good challenge, like learning like the different parts of it.
Yeah. Cool.
I enjoy it.
Yeah. So just to wrap things up, I feel like we definitely covered a lot of things in the sense of how to grow personally, how to grow with your friends, and just like make sure that you guys understand each other. There's definitely a lot of things that we covered regarding how to be cooperative. So how do both of you guys feel that you guys are somewhat implying those values in your everyday life of just being cooperative or collaborative with your like students or like classmates?
You go first.
Yeah, so I'd say that collaborating with my classmates definitely it promotes, like, I think we work better in groups.
Yeah, most definitely.
Like you said, the interaction with peers and, like, going through tough projects or, like, tough tests together, that definitely helps, like, bring success to, like, all of my peers, so...
Yeah.
I think I would add to it, I would probably call it connecting. So, obviously, as principal, I sit on a lot of different committees, you can call them teams. They work if and only if you are connected with the people in the room. And that, what I mean by that is, can you engage in the difficult conversation? Can you engage in conversations where you don't necessarily agree, but it's a civil conversation about what's the right path to go to? Can you have discourse and still move forward? And that only happens if you're all recognizing we have one goal in mind. In our case, it's putting students first, but also recognizing that we're trying to achieve a commonality in it. So I think it goes back to me, if we're leaving here, it's relationships.
Yeah.
It's figuring out a time for yourself. It's figuring out a path for yourself, but it's also disconnecting to give yourself some, we'll call it bank, that we talked about a little bit earlier as well.
Yeah.
And obviously, your impact as a teacher or principal or anybody's impact as like someone who's contributing to education is very high, and it positively affects students and their futures,
Right.
and it helps everyone grow as a whole.
Yeah.
So what really inspired you to come into like this sector of your like
Into
career?
teaching?
Yeah.
Like I said, I graduated Notre Dame in 1988 and was going to be an accountant.
Yeah.
It's just sort of where I've always wanted. Always thought it was going to be. Actually, I thought it was going to be an umpire, and then maybe an accountant after that. But needless to say, in 1990, I moved to Seoul, South Korea, and started teaching English as a second language. Long story there, and fell in love with, holy cow, connecting with people in a classroom and watching them grow.
Yeah.
Is a little bit better than calling strike three.
Yeah.
And I think, so I went back so in 1991, I went back to ISU, Illinois State University, and changed my major from accounting to business education. And I
Yeah.
taught business education. Because nobody pictured me as a teacher. I got a lot of issues.
Did you teach
but yeah.
business at this?
Yeah,
school?
I taught 8 years here and then 5 years at Waubonsie Valley as business. I taught accounting, business law, and consumer econ here on this campus. I did a little bit of computer classes too. But so I came into teaching by happenstance. It sort of fell in my lap, and just loved it ever since then. It's still no better
Yeah.
job than being a classroom teacher.
Yeah, and
it's a way better job than being a principal.
Like the impact that you have on like all of the students here
You're
at
too kind.
Central.
You're
like,
too kind.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
glad you chose to be.
Yeah,
teaching.
I've enjoyed my 29 years. I got 4 more classes, 2027, and I'm going to enjoy those last 4
Yeah.
years. Yeah.
And then like the impact that we all have, regardless of us being like teachers, principals,
Yeah.
staff members, students, we're really all just helping each other just plateau over our own issues. And I feel that that's definitely something that's very important, that school and our environment and our friend groups just help us like
Develop.
understand and develop
Yeah.
in our mind.
Move one step past. Don't flatline. Don't plateau.
Yeah.
How do you get the help you need to be, whether it's with friends, whether it's outside resources, counselors, social workers, or whatever. Sometimes medication to help you move past that so you can be successful in life.
Yep. With that said, I think thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I really enjoyed the opportunity. I'd love to hear how it goes, and I wish you guys the best.
Yeah.
Thanks for considering me to be an invited guest.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. And remember, fellow listeners, to be healthy as a whole means mental wellness plays a role.